Implementing breadcrumbs in Shopify. Perhaps you've decided to implement breadcrumbs on your store for better SEO, for better UX, or for probably both. But unfortunately, implementing breadcrumbs in Shopify is not as simple as just clicking on a button to turn on the breadcrumbs. There's actually a little bit of thought that goes into it. But if you bear with me for a few minutes, I'm going to make this as simple as possible for you to understand. First of all, let's confirm our understanding of what breadcrumbs actually are. As popular web design publication Smashing Magazine writes, a breadcrumb or breadcrumb trail is a type of secondary navigation scheme that reveals the user's location in a website or web application. The term comes from the Hansel and Gretel fairy tale, in which the two title children drop breadcrumbs to form a trail back to their home. Just like in the tale, breadcrumbs in real-world applications offers users a way to trace the path back to their original landing point. The article goes on to write that we should use breadcrumb navigation for large websites and websites that have hierarchically arranged pages. An excellent scenario is e-commerce websites, in which a large variety of products is grouped into logical categories. Okay, great. So breadcrumbs would make a lot of sense for a Shopify store then, right? Well, there's a caveat to that. Breadcrumb trails have a linear structure, so using them will be difficult if your pages can't be classified into neat categories. Deciding whether to use breadcrumbs largely depends on how you've designed your website hierarchy. When a lower level page is or can be put into more than one parent category, breadcrumb trails are ineffective, inaccurate, and confusing to the user. I want to draw your attention to that last sentence here because this is the big breadcrumb killer in Shopify. You see, the native system in Shopify is not to group together certain products into certain categories, but instead into what Shopify calls collections. So as you can see here in this little diagram, I have a golden circle to represent collections, and I have a blue square to represent products. Okay, so let's take a look at an example. As you can see here, I've got 4 clothing products, a tee, a hoodie, a pair of jeans, and a pair of shorts. These all are in the best sellers collection. So in this case, if there's no other collections, I can just say, okay, all of these belong to the best sellers collection. That's their parent collection. Let's use that. But that's not always the case. What if we had another collection here called new arrivals? And as you can see here, leather jacket is within new arrivals, pair of shorts and pair of jeans is in just bestsellers, but our tee and hoodie products, well, they're in both collections. So here you can see we've got 3 products that have just the one parent, but we have these 2 products that have 2 parents. And in fact, in Shopify, the number of collections in which a product belongs to is near unlimited. Now, Shopify have a solution to this called collection-aware URLs. Let's take a look at what that actually means. So this is a standard product page URL. It's always going to, in Shopify, have the root domain here. Then you're going to have /product/, and then you're going to put the handle of the product after that, okay? With the collection-aware URL, we're simply adding this part here to the URL, which if we remove this part, the part that we saw earlier with the products/hoodie, then this becomes the link to the collection page itself. So we're basically combining the link to the collection page with the link to the product page together into one URL, and this tells this product page that this product belongs to this collection. So when we're creating our breadcrumbs, we have the current page, and then the item before it is that parent collection. How is this typically implemented into a Shopify store? Well, let's just say we have here this featured collection section. And as you can see, this featured collection is showcasing our best sellers. So when the user navigates to one of these products, presumably by just clicking on it, we will program it to go to this collection-aware URL. We're basically telling the product page they came from the bestsellers collection, so make that the parent. Unfortunately, this is not recommended for a variety of reasons relating to SEO. And over the last 6 years, I've seen the use of this feature in Shopify completely fade out of existence. Which leaves us with creating our own system for breadcrumbs. You see, because Shopify doesn't force us to define a single parent category, we need to 1, decide what that parent collection will be, and 2, figure out a system to tell that to Shopify. So as you can see here, we've got our hoodie product, and it belongs to 2 collections. It belongs to bestsellers and new arrivals. So first of all, we need to make a choice. Which one does it actually belong to? Because in Breadcrumbs, it can't belong to both. So let's say we select bestsellers, okay? How do we indicate that to Shopify? Well, the easiest solution is to just use something called Metafields. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Metafields, but basically it's the Shopify word for a custom field. So in Shopify, there's different objects, right? We have a product object. We can pull the title off of that product object. We can pull the images off that product object. We can pull the description off that product object. But if we wanted to set some other data on that product and pull that off, we would use a custom field, i.e. a metafield. So what we could do is define a metafield on this product object for parent collection, and then we could set within that metafield for each product what the intended parent collection is. So going back to the breadcrumbs again, we've got our current page, that doesn't change, and we've got our parent page, but instead of using a collection-aware URL, we are telling the product page via a metafield that bestsellers is the parent collection. So that's a simple example where we have a product and it has only one parent collection, but let's have a look at something a little bit more complex. Maybe we've got a category on our website for mobile phones, maybe we sell tech, and within this category, we have other categories by brand, so whether they want an Apple phone, a Google phone, or a Samsung phone, and then within each of these collections, we have the different models of iPhones, Pixels, and Galaxies. Well, in this case, we have our products over here. I should probably label that right there. Products, right, that belong to a certain collection within this list of collections here that belong in turn to a parent collection to those collections. So that's a little bit more of a complicated example, but we can apply the same metafield to collections as we did to products. So we could, on the Apple iPhone collection, say that the parent collection of this collection is mobile phones. So with the metafield set on the product and the parent collection of that product, then we can create 3 levels deep of breadcrumbs, and we can extend this to be 4 or 5 levels deep, virtually however many levels we want. In fact, for one of my clients, we were able to achieve a 5-layer deep breadcrumb system using a unique blend of collections, metafields, and meta objects. So while categories with a linear hierarchy are not something that is automatic in Shopify, we can definitely create our own system using custom fields and objects, i.e. metafields and meta objects, to achieve whatever outcome we're looking for. I mean, if it's a single page, you could literally just hard code the breadcrumbs into that single page. But if you're going to be applying breadcrumbs to multiple pages, let me leave you with a simple solution to define your own breadcrumbs on any page in Shopify. This solution comes from fellow Australian Shopify developer Edward Fastovsky, and it involves simply creating a collection list metafield on the product object. Basically, it's the same concept as I walked you through before with the parent collection metafield, but instead of one collection, you can specify multiple collections here, and these collections will simply show up in the breadcrumbs before the product title in the exact order that you specify. There's no need in this case to create additional metafields on the collection object, but in this case, the collection won't be aware of its parent, and therefore, if you wanted something like this, as well as something like this, you will need to define your parent collection or collections on both the product object and the collection object. And as these are separate, you have the flexibility to mess up the hierarchy as you write these out. But not to worry, if you need breadcrumbs on your Shopify store and are looking for a trusted solution that works for your specific use case, click the link in the description to access the questionnaire, and we can help you with the best option for implementing and maintaining a simple breadcrumb system. All right, so to summarize everything we've covered in this video, the bottom line on breadcrumbs in Shopify is this. Number one, breadcrumbs aren't as simple as you might think because Shopify taxonomy does not follow a linear structure. 2, due to this flexible hierarchy, we need to tell Shopify what pages belong to what. And 3, we can do this via defining and setting metafields on products or other resources within Shopify. If you'd like to get in touch regarding this or any other issue on Shopify, you can find the contact link in the description of this video. Drop us a comment if you have anything to say, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.